Hello and welcome again. This is another training video from elttraining.com and I'm Gakonga. This one's called Keeping Them Speaking in English. So hopefully what you want to do in your class is to get them doing plenty of talking. But one of the problems can be what happens when they don't. And recently on Facebook, Damien Williams started a thread that made me think and got a lot of ideas from a lot of people. So what he asked was, what techniques, methods, activities, tips, tricks, etc. do you use to limit the amount of unnecessary L1 your learners use in class? So L1, we mean their mother tongue. I thought this is a really good question. Obviously this is what you want to happen in the class. And this is sometimes what does happen, especially obviously in monolingual classes where everyone speaks the same first language. Now, something to start off with I thought was an interesting thing that Gabriella Froese said. She said that she's finding this interesting because she thought there's a problem that maybe it gives the idea that L1's wrong. Now, here are some L1s for you. I leave you to guess what they are. And the question is it okay to use L1 in class? And the answer is, of course, yes, of course it is. If you can, then why not? You know, it can make things much more efficient, much more effective. It can really lower affective filters for learners. I think clearly there's an issue about how much you use and how much they use. You want to try and maximise the amount of comprehensible input that they get. But if it's easier just to translate a quick word rather than spending 10 minutes trying to explain it in English, then why not? Of course, that's easier. It also depends a lot, of course, on level. Lower level learners are going to need more support in L1 and they're going to need to be allowed to use L1 more. I think once you get to kind of intermediate level and above, there's not so much reason for learners to have to use L1, and I think it's a good idea to really encourage them to use English as much as they possibly can. So if this is what's happening in your class and you're feeling like, no, it's time to stop, the question might be, what can you do? So here are some of the ideas that came up on this thread. I've credited them where they're not mine. Most of them aren't mine. So this is obviously the first thing you can do, is just try and convince them to use English. Explain to them why it's a good idea to do this, that clearly they'll learn more if they speak more. So that's obviously a really good idea. Something else someone suggested was that you could get them to do something physical and possibly embarrassing if they speak L1. Maybe jump up and down, do press-ups, something of that nature. Another thing, again, Gabriella suggested, was that it's important that your learners know how to avoid it. So asking, they know how to ask for the words that they need in English. So that's something to think about. Pretend not to understand. Tatiana suggested that even though she and her class speak the same language, she pretends that she doesn't. Another thing from Gabriella was that she gives her learners, especially younger learners, a card idea. So she gives them 3 cards at the beginning of each lesson. They've got 3 chances to use L1, 3 chances to ask something or whatever in L1. When they use that, the card gets taken away. So they've only got those 3 chances. I think that's quite a nice idea, to give them a limited amount of stuff. And finally, Herbert suggested that if all else fails, whip them. I think this was probably a bit tongue-in-cheek. I think there were 3 ideas that I really liked, that were kind of happy ideas, that worked on the idea of very positive things and enjoyable things. And so those are the ones that I really liked, and those are the ones I want to tell you about now. This is one that I've used quite often and very successfully, is that at the beginning of the class you split the class into 2 teams, just down the middle. So it's fine and easy. Call them 2 teams. I've got orange and pineapple here, but you could give them names of animals or whatever else, and give them some points to start with. When you hear anybody in either team use L1, you just rub a point off the board. So what this means is that it's not themselves they're letting down their team. And peer pressure can be a really helpful thing, I think, a very powerful thing. So I found that that works a lot better if you penalise a team, and it makes it a lot of fun, I think. You can clearly ensure that the atmosphere here is one of a jokey, fun kind of thing, and they do like it. So I think this is a really nice idea. It's worked well for me in the past. Something else, I thought this was a brilliant idea from Saha, was that anybody who speaks L1 in class gets a red card. So then when another learner speaks L1, they get the red card from the first learner. So it gets passed around the class, and the one at the end gets extra homework or something else small to do that's not so nice. I think this is great because, as was said here, it doesn't have to be about the teacher then. It's the learners who are going to police each other, and they'll be delighted to get rid of the card if somebody else is speaking L1. So I think this is something that could be a lot of fun and could really work very, very well. Finally, the idea that I liked very much that came from Marina, I guess came from Herbert Puchta via Marina, and if you look on YouTube, there's a video about it here, was this idea of, again, seeing how long learners could speak English only for. So Herbert suggests that you put on the board of something a sign like this and ask them what it is, and they'll say yes, it's something to do with I love English. Okay, so this is on your wall, and then you also put on the wall something that says like our world record for speaking English. And when you put the little heart up on the board, you say, right, at that point I want you only to speak English. Let's see how long we can do it for. And perhaps at first it's only 2 minutes or something. But as you try to gradually get them to do a little bit more and a little bit more, they'll also enjoy trying to break the class record. And again, this is something about the whole class being involved and not penalising the individual. So I really like this idea. I think especially for younger learners, this would work really well. So I hope that that's given you a few ideas, and thank you so much to all the people who contributed them, because most of them aren't mine. It's a great thing. Facebook and social media, I think, can be a real power for good. So well done, Damien, for putting up that question first of all. Bye bye.